Jonna from Vinology Wine Bar and Restaurant here in beautiful Ann Arbor, Michigan, where the temperature is about 80 degrees. If you believe that, I can sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. We're here with Aldo Zaninotto, I cannot remember that, who represents Vieti wines, one of my favorite wines from the Piemonte region of Italy. And we have a little spread here of kind of the selection that the Vieti family makes. The really amazing wines that I have just beginning to learn about now. And they represent kind of the best quality that's coming out of this region of Italy, which is in the northern part of Italy. Our first wine is a Roero Arnese. And Aldo, maybe you could tell me a little bit about what the word Arnese means and what Roero means?
Arnese means, believe me or not, into the dialect of Piemonte, the little rascal one. So Arnese was an indigenous variety from long time ago, that is from the indigenous from the Piemonte area. In this time, back then, into about 20-30 years ago, nobody would pay attention to because people called it Nebbiolo, Nebbia Bianco, Nebbiolo White, if you want to call it. However, Alfredo Curado, the patriarch of Vieti, has actually made research to look for varieties that would be proper from the area that was once before there but not anymore there. So back in the 1960s, he was able to identify this great variety called Arnese, and asking around the area to the growers, here in Arnese, everybody would ask and just said, we don't know what Arnese is. They will call Nebbia Bianco. So the best way for him to research that grape was to go to church and to look and talk to the priest and to basically ask him who would have the Arnese grape variety. And there, the priest, of course, had to say that, yes, you came to the right place, I will introduce you to a few people. A couple of weeks later, during harvest time, came down to the church was on, obviously after the Mass. The door opens after church, and right there were 22 growers that were carrying basically buckets and crates of this grape variety that was once lost and now reappearing all of a sudden. And since then we've been making the wine since 1967. So the wine is very aromatic, it's got a good acidity. It's a wine that today it is very specific from our zone, of our area, very well known.
What does Roero mean?
And Roero especially, since the popularity is gaining momentum, we decided, not we, but the area, that they had to come up with a DOCG. And the DOCG is to be proper to say that Roero is the birthplace of Arnese. It is a grape variety that is originally from there and has to be 100% Arnese in order to be called Roero Arnese, and also has to come from the specific zone of Roero. So this is the birthplace of this grape variety.
And you said the word Arnese means rascal.
Rascal.
Like little rascal, so that's how you remember this wine. So, stylistically, dry, crisp, aromatic, a beautiful wine for seafoods, shellfish, aperitif. Really unique and one of the finest white wines from the Piemonte region.
Yes.
Now, we have an additional array of wines here. This is Cortona Syrah.
Yes.
Right? Actually from the Tuscany region.
It is from Tuscany. This is not really, I don't want to confuse people, because really this is a wine that is not from Piemonte, obviously. Piemonte, Tuscany are kind of far away from each other. We talk about distance, put a few hundred kilometers down. We talk about 4 or 5 hours driving from Piemonte to Tuscany. But the reason why we have this wine here is because totally the dedication from Luca Corrado, the interest, just like his father, was to take him to first curiosity and also support from a winery. The winery was already existing there back then in the 1970s, and Luca was approached a few years ago to come over and give his opinion. All of a sudden he got involved into the winemaking along with Christine Vernet, which of course excites Luca Corrado very much, and to work and collaborate with our French producer from the Rhone Valley, who is very well known to that side, and to be working together to make this wine. This is Cortona, which is a DOC, and Cortona is the southern part of Tuscany. It is on the eastern side of Tuscany, south of Arezzo, by the Apennine side. And this area there was once known of being the bulk area for the Aretini to make wine, not always to quality. However, in the last 10 years there have been a few wineries out there that have been starting to flourish, making super quality wine. And for this winery was to focus on Syrah. So this is 100% Syrah, not aged in oak at all, only Slovenian oak, and just for the freshness of the fruit.
And moderately priced.
And moderately priced because you can find this in the retail for probably.
And being a Syrah, does it have the gamey characteristic that we would think from the Côte d'Or region, or the?
Not so much. You have to be truly expressive to Tuscany. However, you can identify the white pepper sometimes in the Syrah there and the clarity of the grape itself. But it is grown from Tuscany.
Overall, a beautiful wine, great food wine, especially with roasted meats, grilled meats, that kind of thing. Then we have one of my favorite wines, Perbacco, and this is 100% Nebbiolo from the Langhe, right, which is the region outside the Barolo.
It is
just kind of like
actually Langhe, not to touch it short, but Langhe is actually the combination Roero, Barbaresco, Barolo, and Alba. So
I
this
got
is
it.
Langhe.
Okay, now tell us what the word Perbacco means, because I think there's a story behind that.
Yes, Perbacco. Perbacco it is actually an expression in Italy. When we're very surprised, you will say in America, "Whoa, you know,"
Yeah.
we say Perbacco.
Okay, I'm going to start using that. So when I'm surprised, I say Perbacco.
Perbacco.
Okay,
You know,
I
like
got
you're
it.
super. You're like you're surprised. Basically, Perbacco. Perbacco is actually a wine that for us it's very surprising because we want the people to be surprised. This is a wine that it is truly made of a great variety that it is known to make Barolo, as you know, Nebbiolo. We decided to basically to focus on making a Nebbiolo that has aged less than the Barolo, which is for us 4 years, that is more approachable, quicker, that you can drink more on a regular basis, because if we have to drink Barolo every day as a wine, we'll be broken by now, and there will be no more wine.
So there's some wood aging on this at all?
These are wood aging. So this is from a combination of 8 different sites, all estate fruit from the Lieti family, around the townships of Barolo, of La Mora, Serralunga, Monforte, and also Vinzali de Carbone and all these other different places. But these vineyards, the combination of 8 separate vineyards that have been identified after the 2 years of vinification, which means that we vinified, we first do the fermentation in stainless steel tanks. Once the fermentation is over, we transfer this wine into French oak. This one will see between 8 to 12 months of aging in French oak. We never use new French oak, we always use 2 to 3 years old. And then after, we'll go transfer to the Slovenian Botte, which is of course
The word Botte means big barrels.
big barrels.
Are they from chestnut? Are they made from
And-
chestnut wood?
No, yeah, the chestnut wood in some ways, but they're very much more neutral. The Slovenian oak, we call that. So this wine then will be identified after 2 years of that aging process. Will be identified to become, for this wine, indicated to this wine. The other barrels or the other Botte will be identified to be making for the other one that will make the Barolo Castiglione.
Okay, so this is a wonderful wine for everyday drinking.
Yes.
Easy to drink, not too high in tannin, lovely aromatics, great with simple foods, cheeses, antipasti, salami. Am I saying that right? I have to use my Italian accent as much as I can. So now we're moving up the level to Barberas and Dolcettos. I think the first one is the Barbera di Alba, the Dolcetto di Alba. Basically what we're talking about here is 2 native grapes to the Piemonte region, which are the most famous. Barbera, one of my absolute favorites, usually a little bit fleshy, a little bit jammy, a little bit more approachable. The Dolcetto supposedly means sweet, but in reality it's not very sweet.
No. It's just sweet because it's much more fruit approachable.
And would you say these 2 wines are the workhorse of the Vietti family? The wines that you...
No, they're not. In terms of production, they're not very much into big production because the Barbera for us, the Alba, which is all estate fruit, is 38,000 barrels per day.
So it's really small production.
It is small. It's a
So
lot.
tell us what Treviña means on the label.
Treviña is 3 different sites, so 3 different vineyards. Each vineyard, look, I will tell you, there's a 3 different dimensions in a wine, but also 3 different sites. We're looking for fruit, structure, we look for, like color. So there are different elements of these vineyards that will come and be combined together after. We'll make a perfect wine.
So this is truly an expression of 3 different vineyard sites assembled to create a particular style that Luca believes in.
Exactly.
But more approachable, I would think, than the classical Barolo.
Oh yeah, Barbera, totally. They're different, much more approachable.
So tell me the difference between Dolcetto and Barbera in terms of style.
Yeah. Well, in terms of style, I think Dolcetto, as you might know, is the first one that will be picked up to be picked. For harvest. This one is usually like in September. This grape variety offers a full, like a ripe fruit. Not ripe fruit. I'm sorry, but like full juice And it is a wine that usually in the region is known as being a table wine. It's been a wine that usually is not that important. It's the first one to be drunk usually during the holidays or to be produced basically. For us, it's more of a wine that we like the character of the fruit, which is fruity but yet dry, nice and round on the palate, but doesn't have to have that deep, intense structure like the Barbera has.
This wine, when you drink it, it says, I am Italian.
Exactly. I am Italian, I'm fun, yes.
Now we're at the last wine, and let me take a practice on the letters D-O-C-G. Let me practice it correctly, please. I think these letters stand for Denominazione Origine Controllata Garantita. Am I correct?
You're like 95%.
Okay, now you need to explain what those 4 letters mean to our audience, because I just learned the exact meaning of those words, but please let us also tell us about Barolo, which is the king of Italian wine.
It's the king of Italian wine. But anyway, so, well, if I say that to the Tuscan, they won't say that, but it's king of origin. But I have to say that the denominazione regionale controllata that you see on the label, just like we said right here,
It's right up on top
Yep.
on the
it is the fact that almost like in France, or it is like in France they have the AOC, Appellation Origine Contrôlée, which is of course to identify that this wine has come truly from the area of where we come from, is being controlled and is being guaranteed. So what we're trying to express is this truly is a wine that it is specifically from our area. And you know, Italians were a little complicated because where we come from...
A little complicated.
You know, every region has a different wine.
And you have different names for different grapes in different areas.
Exactly. So,
and as the grape moves along, Sangiovese probably has 100 names, maybe.
Yeah, exactly. So we're trying to keep the chicken in the same, in the same pot.
So I have some Barolo in my glass. Look at this beautiful color. This color to me always tells you that it's Barolo. It has a kind of a garnet red. It has a tinge of brown on the finish. The aroma, they say sometimes roses, tar, absolutely gorgeous. It's a wine that needs to sit in the bottle for a while. This is from the great 07 vintage, which you told me was a spectacular vintage, up to 10 years of aging. If you're going to have a great Italian dish, there is nothing like Barolo, like Ossobuco, the famous regions of Piemonte, the truffle, the white alba truffle, the tortellini. So here's a salute to all of you. This is Jonna from Vinology Wine Bar with VinoBytes. Thank you so much. This is our very first show. Thanks to our director, Sarah Tweed. See you again.
Salute.